Well, welcome to the Board of Clackamas County Commissioners. Issues and updates on this July 2021. Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up first.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Commissioner Schrader is out of the office today, but the other commissioners are present. We'll go right down the list in order. American Rescue Plan Act update. Nancy Bush, Elizabeth Comfort, please come forward. Elizabeth's the Finance Director, Nancy's County Operating Officer. This is just the weekly check-in on how we're doing with ARPA.
Yeah, good morning.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So we just have a brief update this morning. Our team met this morning and went through a few things, talking about what was approved last week by the county commissioners. So we do have a group coming together for businesses to talk about how we're going to get that $4 million out, making that also equitable. We have Martine, who is Koblos, who is also on the team as well. So we are having that meeting next week. Just trying to figure out with all the criteria we talked about last week and what that may look like. So that's going on. Martine is also leading the group related to the nonprofits and what is going to be going out to those individuals and to those individual groups, as well as purchasing the essential things that are needed for that. So again, we're getting that off the ground and making sure that, again, we don't want to complicate things. We don't want our applications to be too complicated, so we're working through those issues too. TS is now looking at getting fiber. They're looking at getting quotes for projects. They're hearing that there is shortage on fiber because everyone's doing fiber right now with their ARPA dollars, but they are moving forward as well. Basically, that is what's going on with the money that you've already approved or that you approved last week. I also just wanted to bring up the AOC, Association of Oregon Counties, sent a letter, I think, to all of the commissioners. If not, I made sure all of you had a copy this morning. This is nothing we have to decide today. I just want to draw your attention to it. They are asking for $25,000 to look at community water needs statewide and what that might look like. It looks like, from what I can understand, this is a very vague letter that they might be using like a consulting group or something like that. And then also in housing and what that may look like. And again, that's statewide, and they're asking for $25,000 from every county.
And that's from AOC?
That is AOC.
From our statewide organization. And are they asking each county for $25,000?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So $50,000 total, and yes, they are.
50.
So it's 25 for water and 25 for housing.
Oh.
So it's 50,000 total.
Okay, well,
And
Gary, let's tee that up on a future policy session. Is this time sensitive?
So they said that they're going to be having a conversation about the water needs on August 18th, which I believe is the next meeting for the AOC.
Okay.
And then the housing technical assistance, there's a place to call if there's any questions. So they don't have a deadline at this time.
Okay, so let's, staff can make a determination if our policy session needs to become before or after the August 18th date.
Okay.
You folks decide and bring it before our agenda setting meeting, and we will set a time that we can discuss this publicly, and commissioners can weigh in and decide what they want to do. Paul, did you have a comment?
My comment is, just seems to be a robust discussion at AOC whenever it happens, and I'm kind of surprised that we're not made aware of it prior to this, so don't know where that originated from. But
Thank you for that. Yeah, so this is news to me as well, but
Okay.
yeah.
Most likely, we'll take a look into it, but we'll probably wait until after the 18th date.
Yep.
So we'll take a look, though.
Thank you, Gary, Nancy. Anything further?
I have nothing else. Do you have anything?
Elizabeth, anything from you?
Oh, I do have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So just want to get back on the $4 million for the businesses, and then you mentioned just shortly after the nonprofits. So the $4 million for business recovery, COVID-related, I gather, that same $4 million applies to nonprofits as well, right? Or is it separate funding for, let's say, business recovery? It seems there's for-profit and nonprofit, right?
Right, that is correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's what I'm after. So they're eligible, nonprofits are eligible to apply for that same business recovery?
No, there's nonprofit dollars that they will apply for,
Okay.
that $4 million. And then there's the businesses for profit, they have a $4 million pot.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as I know they're covered.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Gary?
Thank you. Next, Community Development Block Grant Awards. Rod Cook, Mark Soroy from Health, Housing, Human Services wants to give you an update. There was a memo in your packet. Come on up. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners and Gary. We have Mark Soror with us here from our Community Development, I'm sorry, don't want to use the acronym, to talk to you about a notice for funding opportunity that we put out to the community. We received applications back, and we're here to talk to you about that today to give you an update.
So we submitted a notice of funding opportunity, and they got 6 proposals back. We're recommending 2 projects for funding, and here to answer any questions about those projects. And what
Well,
we
why don't you talk about them?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. With Clackamas Service Center Homeless Shelter, their project would be an expansion of that service center. Right now, they're in the process of moving the food pantry that's in the basement to another location so that they can expand the Clackamas Service Center, and they want to build more office space as well so they can provide more services to homeless people that attend that service center. And the next project is any questions, Commissioners? Any questions?
No, go ahead. Just,
Okay.
yeah, and the second project, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. The Volunteers in Medicine would like to build a clinic at the Clackamas Community College. And so right now they have a facility that's off of Malala Avenue that's kind of a brick building, very kind of a warehouse, small building. So they have an opportunity to build a clinic on the Clackamas Community College campus.
Well, that's a building that's already is in existence, and they're going to remodel it. Now, the money that the total cost of that is almost $1.2 million. And where are these monies coming from?
This money is Community Development Block Grant COVID funding.
And you said that already. So, which I think is very exciting, the Volunteers in Medicine Clinic has also received, is this correct, $600,000 from our legislative partners in state money. So this project is getting off, the Volunteers in Medicine Clinic is getting off to a very fine start. The current location on Malala Avenue, I toured some time ago, several months ago, and I'm thankful to see that they want to move because that is not adequate in so many ways. I went out to Clackamas Community College, in full disclosure, met with the executive director of the Volunteers in Medicine and President Tim Cook, and they showed me their plans, what they want to do, and this is the first leg of their project. I think that with these 2 grants at almost $1.2 million will set them up nicely. It will open their doors to increase capacity. They can enter off Beaver Creek Road in a private parking lot. They also have access to other services, for education at the community college. Also, they can move ahead with other grant opportunities from statewide nonprofits who said to them, gee, we're kind of interested. This is a really good idea, but we don't want to be the first ones. So I'm thankful for our legislative partners, and I'm thankful for you folks finding the block grant to do this. Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Sonia.
So I always appreciated the CDBG grants, and it's always been on this low-income area. It's a sticks and bricks kind of a funding. It's not services, it's sticks and bricks. Great to see the COVID-19 related thing. So I just want to make sure that that low-income population that they serve is one of the highest criteria typically. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's still the case, Commissioner.
So hence, that's probably why the awards are where they are.
Yes, and it's COVID related. We want to try to reduce the impacts of COVID and prevent COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Sonia?
Yeah, so my question was kind of Paul's question, or my comments, making sure I understood that it's really based kind of towards, maybe sticks and bricks isn't the right word, but more in the terms of one time only for more infrastructure type of development and not for services, as Commissioner Savas said. I'm just curious about the other proposals. It looks like they were for services. Is that right?
That's
or were
correct.
they for infrastructure also? This, I don't have we just have the list of the.
Yeah, Commissioner Fisher, yes, they were mostly for services. So, for instance, the Para Creek homeless shelter request The legislature just awarded them $3.5 million and $600,000 for services as well, so they're covered there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and the other, Clackamas Women Services, Northwest Housing Alternatives, and Northwest Family Services. In my division alone, I have contracts with them for other COVID funding that was ESG COVID funding. So
What's
they're
CSG again?
Emergency Solutions Grant, Commissioner,
And where does that come from?
from HUD as well.
Oh, okay.
So those other, so did I answer your question, Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just interested in, because the number 3, Clackamas Women's Services, very clear, it says hotel vouchers, that's services in my mind. I'm just curious about what the other needs were that were identified. And you could
What,
maybe show me
offline?
the proposals offline, or I'm
Sure.
interested in why they didn't qualify. I mean,
But
maybe you
they
can
have,
give a...
he said they had funding elsewhere. It's why this particular money wasn't used for them, because there was an additional pot of money out there. And this proposal only addressed CD, the block grants, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's why.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to clarify that the other ones were for services and not for infrastructure.
That is true.
That is true, Commissioner, and I can provide you those proposals. And those 3 were basically their annual budget for their shelter. So each of those agencies operates a shelter.
So why would they apply for these dollars, which is really for building infrastructure? Why would they apply with service
Well,
requests?
when we did the notice of funding opportunity, we kind of left it wide open, for everything kind of homeless related. So services was listed in there as an opportunity as well. But when we kind of looked at all the proposals, we said kind of the best use of these block grant dollars is for infrastructure. So that's why we're recommending that.
Okay, so it wasn't, a criteria wasn't totally just infrastructure, it was for services.
Both, yes. We tried to leave it pretty broad in our,
But it is one-time money.
correct.
Okay, well, given that, I think one-time money should go towards infrastructure, but I do think it's good if we communicate that with our community, what the priorities could be. And maybe we need to set priorities for from the board for these dollars, just so that we're clear.
I think we did that in January in our goal-setting meetings, and I think it's up to our staff to implement what we said in those goal-setting meetings in January. Any deviation from that can be brought to the board. I think our goals are quite clear. Paul, you're up.
I was just going to just remind everyone, I think the other criterion is the lowest income population.
Sure.
And the people that are served by, volunteers in medicine, for example, are quite low income, don't have any choice for medical services or anything else. So what they provide there is very unique for a very unique
Paul.
population. So it's heart-wrenching, but
And the doctors volunteer.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
They volunteer and they get donations, and
Great program.
from what I understand, medical students can come out and do their internships there, and it gives them, I think, a real good view of, their future patients or whomever, and it's just really nice. And having it at the college, and the college has other medical programs as well, I think is such a plus. I'm just so excited about this. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say, I know we're trying to end. So just, this is a piece of the continuum. Think of this as the really infrastructure. This is the building that we're building so that services can come forward. And there are other funds for normal or traditional services. So that's how we had to look at it, a holistic perspective in terms of this money is very specific to a piece, but there's other dollars available for the other parts of the system that would be coming through SHS and some other means
Nice.
down the road.
And another way of saying it would be that essentially that opportunities for infrastructure and these kinds of things are few and far between.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes, that's fantastic.
And Commissioners, so if you all approve of us moving forward, what I'll do next is I'll provide award letters to these 2 entities, and then I'll work on the agreements as well. I'll work with County Council. The first agreement with Clackamas Service Center is going to be a cooperation agreement, so that'll come before you again, so we can see that the
I see.
cooperation agreement is in place. The second agreement with Volunteers in Medicine will be an intergovernmental agreement because the community college is involved, so they're kind of a governmental entity, so there'll be an agreement between the county, the community college, and Volunteers in Medicine. And I've got to work out that agreement and bring that before you as well for
Okay.
review and approval.
Commissioner Fisher.
I'm just curious, did they indicate Volunteers in Medicine what their total budget is for the move to Clackamas Community College?
The, their total request was 1.19, $1,195,000 for the construction. Only.
Commissioner Fisher, they indicated to me on my tour that they could remodel and get open with the almost $2 million.
Oh, great. So they've got half from the legislature and half from us, so they're good to go.
Yes, they're good to go.
Just making sure our
They do
investment.
have Phase 2 in mind, I will tell you. It's about an additional $1 million, and it's very high-end medical and dental equipment, I think, if my memory serves me, don't hold me to that. So they have planned well, but they can get open, they can get people in, and I think, once that happens, it'll free them up to go out into to the private markets, maybe get some partnerships with other medical providers and/or nonprofits to move forward. Gary, do we need to make a motion on this?
So do you need the board's approval to move forward, or not till it comes to before the board with the final agreements?
The final agreements will come to you at a future point. What I would do, now that we
Well, we'll just give you an approval today. Is there any commissioner who is in objection to this proposal? I see none, so go ahead and then bring us back your paperwork. Thank you very much. This is very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, business recovery grants. Sarah Ekman, Business and Community Services, please come on down. There's a memo in your packet on this as well. Go ahead, Sarah.
Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Thanks for letting me bring this before you today. I am bringing forward an item that you initially saw when we received approximately $4 million from the state. Sorry, 2.7. I'm mixing up. $2.7 million from the state. This is out of the pot of money that the governor had committed after the April 30th move to extreme risk. Statewide, there was $20 million. The 2.7 is our allocation. At your direction, we did pursue opportunities to work through our chambers of commerce and business recovery centers to facilitate distribution of these dollars. But due to some of the structures that need to be in place for them to do that, the business recovery centers and chambers have indicated they're not going to be able to do that. So we've put together a strategy. The reason they're not able to do that is because it requires a subrecipient grant agreement between the county and those entities. And there's quite a bit of responsibility that passes through to the chambers of commerce and the BRCs when that happens. So they're not able to go that route.
Okay.
We have a proposal before you today. So of that 2.7, we have 4 main categories we've put together to distribute these dollars directly to help businesses. The utility bill relief program is something we've been working on. This is an up to $300,000. I'm anticipating it's going to be less than that. We have some preliminary numbers from Portland General Electric and Northwest Natural, and are trying to get those firmed up this week so we can put that agreement in place. We're also looking at working with Canby Utility, but have had a little bit of trouble connecting with them, so we're pursuing a pathway there. We've also been working with the Lewis and Clark College Small Business Legal Clinic for legal services.
Before you move on to that, regarding the utility bills, have you
Yes.
reached out, for instance, utility providers in all the small towns, like Molalla, Sandy, Colton area, that they provide? You say utility bills. Is it limited to heat and electricity? You say gas and electric.
We've been focused on gas and electric, and so in working with Canby Utility, it would cover gas and electric for the entire county.
Well, there's also one in Molalla,
Yes.
right? There's also one in Sandy, right?
So is that utility bills for businesses?
It would be businesses who have accounts in arrears up to 60 days, and we can pursue that. It was my understanding that the electric was covered, Canby and Portland General Electric. If there's others, we'll certainly
Are these
expand
paid
that.
directly to the utility?
They are paid to the utility provider, so the accounts are identified by the provider. The county then is able to facilitate just one payment to each provider, which brings those accounts current.
Okay.
The legal services, we have had an agreement for the past several months with the Lewis and Clark College Small Business Legal Clinic. They have been able to provide legal services to 7 business clients who have been forwarded to them from the BRCs. So we've dedicated $10,000 out of this money to continue their services through September. We have a 5% administrative cost we can put out of this, so we've identified that to help facilitate these programs. And then the largest part of this we'd like to use to fund more grant applications that came in on our last round. So if you'll recall, we were able to fund $675,000 of grants, which was 90 businesses at $7,500 apiece. It left $500 unfunded. So if we use this $2.2 million to fund more, it will cover $300 more. And then we are working with some partners to identify possible other funds to cover more of those unfunded grant applications, and we should be able to get to close to covering most of who applied on that first round. But there's more work to be done. So if we do that, we would partner with Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon. They have to vet out those businesses. So that 500 number of applications will likely come down because businesses do have a small amount of requirement that they need to do in terms of documenting their expenses, for example. The grants are structured that they provide dollars to businesses who've incurred costs. So wanted to get this in front of you, see if you have any questions.
Paul?
Yeah, just real quick. So this applies to businesses that are still in business versus businesses that may have failed?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Commissioner Fisher?
Couple questions. I'm interested in why the chambers couldn't distribute the dollars. What is the federal regulations that make it untenable for them to be the distribution?
I could get a full, a more complex response to that. I know one of the things, there's subrecipient monitoring that's required. That's a pretty extensive and exhaustive process for small entities to carry out. There's a lot of other pieces that go along with it, but that was one of the things I heard made it.
Elizabeth, are you
not
able
go
to,
forward.
can you answer that question? Are you listening? Why can't we do subrecipient agreements with the business recovery centers, the chambers of
Elizabeth,
commerce?
please come forward. Please come forward, Elizabeth Comfort. State your name and where you work.
It's a test, everyone. You got to listen every minute. You never know when I'll call on you.
Hi, good morning, Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director of the county.
I was just sharing, so in terms of our chambers of commerce not being able to be subrecipient, I was sharing that one of the things that made that not doable for them, from my understanding, is the monitoring that passes through to them on that process, as we have obligations that kind of pass down from the county to our award recipients.
Yeah, I can do additional research on this and get back to you, but my understanding several months ago is that there are requirements they need to register with SAM, and one of the registration, it's a federal.
It's a SAM.gov is a System Award Management System.gov. It's a federal registration that's required for all.
Got it.
Yeah, and you do annual reporting. And we had some of those business recovery centers, chambers that had not done that. There were a couple of steps that they would need to do in order.
One particular chamber of commerce, wanted to be able to do this and thought that they did have the ability. However, because of a government regulation and/or registration, are now prohibited from doing so. Is my point of view on this.
Well, they did have extensive conversations with Matt Westbrook, our grants compliance specialist, and it was after that conversation that I received an email from them that they were going to not proceed with pursuing it any longer.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm always interested, and fellow commissioners probably
Right.
agree, when there are federal regulations that prohibit the ease of distribution or getting services to the people. It's really helpful for us to know. I mean, I was just in D.C. and in Senator Merkley's office and in Congressman Schrader's office to say, hey, by the way, when you approve these things, Congress, these are the impacts of how this is on the road. I know that I saw the, thanks to the constituent that reached out to us, all of the names of the businesses and how it went out, and it seems like we're being very efficient through our program, but it's good infrastructure building if we can have the community do it. So just in the future, that's helpful. I had another question. You said that there were 500, I can't remember now what you said, businesses that applied and weren't received grants, and we may be able to get 300 more. How are we prioritizing which 300 will receive the resources?
Out of those, Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon will vet out the rest of the applications, and that will be our first step, because that may get us down to 300 or 400 applications, depending on, if there's validity behind the initial applications. From there, we have some criteria. So far, the 90 that have been funded, 100% were first-time recipients of county grant funds through this program that we were able to verify. And then 100% were either minority-owned, women-owned, or veteran-owned. And so those were the main priorities that we've put in place so far, and that we would apply those again. That would likely leave others, and then we would work internally with MISO to define the rest of the criteria.
Okay, that's really good. And then I'll just declare a potential conflict of interest because I do have a business in Clackamas County. I think Chair Smith has a hazelnut farm. I'm not sure if Commissioner Scholl still has his development business. I know Commissioner Savas no longer has his automotive business, but I will not be applying for these funds. But I just want to say that we probably would be eligible potentially as women-owned businesses.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
won't be applying for these funds either. Unless, of course, they want to make a agricultural declaration regarding hazelnuts, but I don't see that forthcoming, and this is not part of the discussion. I was just putting the plug in. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we also have $135,000 for administrative costs. Is that for the contractor, or is that for the staff?
That would be for the contractor.
Okay.
So we have a 5% cap in the agreement from the state that allows us to use that money for that purpose.
Okay, Gary, what do we need to do with this?
First, Chair Smith asked a question on the utilities. So can Sandy and Malala area be eligible as well, businesses?
They certainly can, yeah. What we're trying to do is make the category of utility type consistent across. So as long as, yeah, we can evaluate that, certainly.
And Estacada, we need to reach out to those rural communities as they were the hardest hit.
Definitely.
You know, in these small towns, and I've seen this decade after decade, literally the sidewalks roll up and these businesses go away. And the impact on our communities is huge. So in any staff listening out there with anything, please don't exclude our rural cities in any of this, whatever you come forward with, because we'll just put a little reminder in your head on that. Thank you. Please go and check on that, and that 300,000 number may have to be adjusted, and then you will have to decide where to get that money from.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you very
So
much.
Commissioners, I do recommend a motion just to memorialize the action today so staff can move forward on this distribution of funds.
I'll hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved that we approve the business recovery assistance of $2.7 million. Commissioner Fisher has seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Christina, please call the poll.
Yes. Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much, Director Eklund, for coming forward.
Great, thank you. Next, a Milwaukee Center name change. Sarah will also present this. And Sarah, is this just an FYI, or does the board need to make a decision on this?
So this is an FYI to ask for your support as this goes forward. We do have an item here. The Milwaukee Center has been known as the Milwaukee Center. The Center Community Advisory Board initially suggested a change of the name to the Milwaukee Community Center, and we've outlined that in your memo. Initially, the center was really focused on seniors, and there's now programming on that facility and others that is beyond that and more broadly geared towards the entire community. So it's gone through a number of checks and balances with a variety of groups. The CCAB, which is what we call it, the Center Community Advisory Board, initially proposed this. It was approved by the District Advisory Board in February of 2020, and then last week at the District Advisory Committee, the newly formed District Advisory Committee for the NCPRD district also affirmed their commitment to this and did not have any objections to this. So what would happen next is it will go to the City of Milwaukee, but we wanted to put this before you today to see if you have any questions or objections to this name change. Staff is supportive of it, and we recommend going forward with it because it is more inclusive of the entire community.
Yeah, I don't have a problem, commissioners, you weigh in on this. So once the name is changed, do we need to approve it, or can we say today that we support this?
It would need to come back for a very formal approval at the very end.
Okay.
So, yes.
Commissioners, any comments?
Just remind me, I always lose track. So the city of Milwaukee needs to approve this because they own the land underneath it, or
That
Or
is correct.
Do
Yes.
they own the building? Who owns the building?
Yes, so they own the building, the facility, so it would go to the city council, and that is slated to happen going forward, and then we would bring it back to you for a formal approval based on our conversation
Okay,
today.
And my follow-up is, getting back to Gary's original question, as far as votes and who approves or when we approve it. So I was at the meeting last week when the DEAC was informed of it. So when are the official votes required? Obviously for us as the district and the DAC as the board, when do they actually vote on it? The city of Milwaukee will formally vote, that's clearly outlined, but when will the other two entities actually vote on it?
So we did take the district advisory's affirmation of it as indication to move forward last week. The city would adopt it with a resolution coming up, and then it would come back, the district board here would be the final vote to approve it. So the city, I have to look back, it's in the next couple of weeks, they have a slot allocated to bring it to their city council for resolution.
Yeah, so definition of affirm is what?
It's a great question. So affirm, in putting it in front of the district advisory committee, just to have them basically, it's not a formal reapproval, but approve that going forward through the formal process that's outlined in our.
Okay, just want to make sure that
policy.
it was voted on, back in, you said January or February?
February of 2020,
February
it was
2020.
voted on, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I see no objection to that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So we'll come back to you at the very end for final authorization, but today, go forward. All right, thank you. Next, Thimble Forest School request. Sarah will also present, and I would like Andrew Naylor to come forward too from County Council. And Tom
Great.
Riggs from Business and Community
Please
Services.
introduce yourselves, please.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Tom and Andrew to talk about this one, and they have the best details.
Tom Riggs, Business and Community Services, Parks and Forestry Manager. And yes, we have a proposal for the Wetton property. So some of you may remember the donation by John Wetton of 12.86 acres south of Oregon City last year. And at the time, Mr. Wetton, a retired educator, had a vision for the property as a place of nature education and preserved long-term as a park. At the time, I had expressed concerns about County Park's ability to improve and maintain this property, given our current limited resources. One of the suggestions, Commissioner Savas mentioned the idea of finding a volunteer group that might be able to take on some of that task. And we have been approached by Thimble Forest School, who is interested in operating a forest kindergarten on the site. And so the combination of nature education and volunteer effort seemed like something that should bear consideration. So a forest kindergarten, for those who are not familiar, is an educational program which provides daily outdoor experiences for children 3 to 6 years old with limited or no indoor facilities. So these children spend 70 to 100% of their time in the outdoors, in nature, getting experience, and the curriculum just emerges from daily activities in the woods. Washington State recently passed a law that allows anyone to choose a forest school for their child regardless of income, and Thimble Forest School is working on becoming a proof of concept for similar accessibility in the state of Oregon. So they have proposed operating a school on site at the Wetton property and doing a volunteer effort to improve facilities so that it would work better for them, adding some parking, bringing a porta potty on site, improving the trails, that sort of thing. And so as we were talking through this possibility with them, we started trying to figure out, okay, what's that going to look like paperwork-wise? Where do we go from here? I started talking with Andrew, and we decided that it made sense before we got too far down the path of conditional use permits and facility property license agreements to bring this before the board and see if a school operating on a park property, an outdoor school, was something that this board would be supportive of, and whether we should continue pursuing this or whether this is outside your comfort zone, and we should look for other opportunities.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, so Mr. Wetton, when we met him, Mr. Madcore and I, Tom, Sarah, actually, wow, that's right, all four of us, we met out there. He, as a former educator, well-respected former educator, had used the park and took his students there for like a field trip, basically, for the site, and did a lot of educational things about nature, and so it's a great opportunity, I think. I guess we're made aware of some land use kind of thing, so ideally, we can maybe sit down with the school and figure out how we navigate that so that it doesn't violate or get into the land use things about having a school on premises, which really doesn't sound like a structure, but an activity. So how we thread that needle, the way that it works out for all of us might be, does Thimble School have a brick and mortar structure somewhere?
They do not.
They do not.
They operate on a variety of outdoor spaces.
Okay. So it's not as though they're going to send a class out there for a field trip and do things on the site.
No, they would be out there full-time.
I think we can discuss that further with our legal counsel. Paul, a very good idea. I'm going to tee up Commissioner Fisher, and then we'll let Mr. Naylor present.
What is the, is it a private school, charter school? Tell me more about Thimble Forest School.
I actually don't have a lot of details about how they are formed and incorporated. They are working on becoming a 501c3. They're not there yet. They have some logistical steps to take still, and are in concept are structured as an outdoor school. So they don't have a regular school that they're operating out of. This is their school.
Okay, so they aren't established yet, or are they? I'm going to try to.
They
Google
are.
them.
They have. Yeah, they have a website.
Do they have an executive director? Do they have a structure?
yes.
Do they have a board of directors, formally or informally?
I think the board of directors is one of the things they're still working on to achieve their 501c3.
And where do they get their curriculum?
I don't have all those details.
I think maybe that's what Commissioner Fisher and I would like some answers on.
Certainly.
Since this is a county-owned property. I want to address now with our county council land use issues and liability issues going forward for this.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Naylor, Assistant County Counsel. Because this is just a preliminary request, we have not delved into those issues, but they will be extensive. We'll have to go through the entire land use process to make sure that this is permitted. We'll draft an agreement, and we'll have to sort out the scope of permitted use, if it's going to be exactly what they request. If it's something more narrow, we'll certainly have to address liability. Will it require insurance? Will it require indemnity? All the usual things, but it will be, a school on our property, so it bears risk. And those are steps we will certainly take as this moves forward, if this board wants this to move forward. So it is not something that's occurred to date, but it will occur if this looks
And I
like it'll happen.
see in the staff report, they're offering to pay $100 a month, which is fine. They're willing to put in a parking lot, and did I see bathroom facilities? Okay, which I think is magnanimous. Would those parking lot and bathroom facilities be made use to other groups or individuals who might want to frequent the property? That's a question you don't have to answer today. That needs to be considered for the future. And is this Thimble School wanting just the exclusive use? They only use the property, which I do not favor. So if they do make those improvements and other people are allowed to come in, they have to understand that others may be using that subject to maintenance and/or vandalism, and then who takes care of that? So that needs to be addressed as well. I think that this board wants to go forward with this. I would like you to find a pathway through our zoning ordinances to try to make this happen. It was the intent of the grantor, Mr. Wetton, to have this be an outdoor school, so to speak. I love the idea. I don't know what else we're going to do with this property. Our Parks Department can scantily afford to make improvements to themselves. So maybe if we can get this going, others will take notice and be participants as well, not only for the use, but maybe on a financial basis. So, Commissioners, anything else?
I just,
Yes, Commissioner Scholl.
If we're talking 3 to 5-year-olds, what kind of shelter? This is going to be a year-round thing? And what kind of shelter is there?
Yeah, they propose constructing a few temporary shelters, I think they have a picture of a little geodesic dome that can be
Let's see that.
erected on site
yeah.
to, temporarily set up.
Like a
They can go
Quonset
inside
hut.
for
That
shelter.
would be fun. If I was 5 years old, I'd just think that was really cool.
Yeah,
I think it's cool if you're not 5 years old.
but they also, on their website, when they talk about, is forest school right for you, they have a question about, are you prepared to get your child the appropriate outdoor gear so that they can spend time outside safely and comfortably?
And I read this was year-long, so they get an opportunity to get wet and muddy.
Absolutely,
And that's very good for the soul.
that is.
Yeah. Tom, this is not a survival school for 3 to 5-year-olds.
Well, we hope they all survive, but no.
Okay, Gary, what do we need to do with this?
Stephen, do they need to vote on this? Should they vote on this?
I don't think you have enough to vote on. I think you're just going to give staff direction to.
I think
Get more
I gave-
information.
yeah, I think I gave staff direction, what they need to do. Commissioner
Yeah, I'm
Sacks?
just going to say, just kind of figure out a way to find the middle ground or thread the needle to make something like this happen. And I can see the entanglements with the land use or structures. If they're temporary and they take them home at the whatever, something that you guys can be creative and figure out a way to make it legal.
And then come back to the board before you make it happen.
Yeah, and go ahead, sorry.
Is there a time limit on this proposal? Are they,
They were hoping to start their school this fall. Actually, they were hoping to start with summer camp, but we don't think that's feasible at this point. They have a
Okay.
plan B for that.
so we're going to have to hustle on this, I believe.
Yeah.
Like you guys have nothing else to do.
So I'm just interested in I looked at the website, read it. I don't have the information as to really the viability of the school, what's the structure, how long have they been in business.
Right.
Want to make sure that any type of partnership that we enter into is one that has the bones and the infrastructure to be sustainable. And is it a for-profit? Is it nonprofit? Is it private pay? Would we be giving the land and then they're making a lot of profit? And is there other state grants that go to this? Is this connected with our early childhood hub? All those kinds of
And
questions.
of course, the health and welfare of the students as well on site.
Absolutely.
There's a lot to this, but it's very exciting. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for bringing this forward.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Gary?
All right, thank you. Next, approval of a Metro advance for supportive housing services. Stephen Madcore, Elizabeth Comfort, Andrew Naylor, any and all of you will present. There was a memo in your packet. There was an updated agreement, version 3 or 4, that I emailed you last night, and it is online. So whoever wants to start, go ahead, please.
I didn't see version 3 or 4.
Good morning, Commissioners. Andrew Naylor, Assistant County Counsel. Before you is the draft $3 million advancement from Metro to fill the funding shortfall that the county has experienced as a result of the SHS funds not appearing as we initially planned. It is our understanding that this advancement reflects the agreement that Commissioners Savas and Schrader proposed, and so we documented it with Metro. We negotiated the terms. It's relatively simple. Metro and the county agreed that we wanted a very straightforward agreement. The salient terms are the advancement has to be repaid by June 30th, 2023. The interest rate is the local government investment pool rate, which Elizabeth can talk about what that amounts to in dollars based on the current rate today. I don't know if you want to jump in on that.
Sure. Yeah, jump in.
So it's
Introduce yourself, please.
Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director. So it's 0.6% interest today on a daily rate, and so that annualized is 2.19%. So it would be about $64,700 annually, $134,000 for the 2 years.
60, how much?
$64,700 for the first year. And then we do hope to begin, since this is an advance, and then I'm probably skipping ahead, but we would like to potentially look at starting repaying it after the first 12 months.
So the repayment comes from where?
It'll come from the tax collections that Metro.
So this is an advance on future revenues that have not come in yet. I want to make it very clear. We are not taking out a loan from Metro. This is an advance of which we will be charged interest. And that is $64,700 for the first year based on $1.5 million?
$3 million.
3 million altogether, but we're not going to get the 3 million all in the first year, are we, or are we?
We are.
We are.
Within 7
Okay,
days.
quarterly payments from, what is the start date? Are they quarterly payments, and what is the start date?
We decide when and how to make repayment. It will be, when we
No.
receive our,
No, my question is first, when is the start date? Are the payments quarterly, or do we take the money all at once?
we take the money all at once. The start date will be effective upon signature of both parties, so after you and Metro both sign, and we will receive the $3 million all at once within 7 days of it being effective.
And the departments, Director Jill Smith, they are working on the budget to identify how to utilize the tax collections that are coming in, along with that $3 million to stretch that over the first 12 months. And then we'll begin, hopefully, the collections will come in stronger after April of '22, and we'll begin paying that $3 million back.
Yeah, and so we could pay it back sooner than anticipated, yes. Andrew,
Oh,
do you have
absolutely.
anything to finish on this presentation?
No, just to add that the repayment is flexible. Metro agreed that the county could decide, and what we'll do is, before we receive our disbursement of the income, we tell Metro what we would like them to withhold each time that disbursement comes in. So we'll tell them, take X dollars out of that to
Okay.
apply to repayment.
And then who decides that? Is it the board, or is it the housing authority, or social services?
Well, I was going to work with the Housing Authority on that because we do not want to reduce services, within tax collection. We don't want it to be a penalty starting to have the payment.
So you'll work with the housing services, and then you'll make a recommendation to the board. Will we have to approve that?
I don't believe.
You wouldn't have to.
Okay.
But if you wanted heads up on every
Yeah,
time we
just a
repay,
heads up.
absolutely, we could do it.
Yeah, we can bring that to you.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I want to jump in here. So appreciate all the work that's getting done. Obviously, we need to have an agreement, so I support the agreement and so on. But I want to make sure we don't get adrift a little bit, and that is I want to have some flexibility. When the Administrators Task Force met, Elizabeth was part of that. Commissioner Schrader and I worked on this, and Mr. Naylor didn't have the privilege of being there. But the idea was then, not that long ago, when the board approved this, starting off this plan for the funding, the $10 million initially, that we would take 3 now, and based on the rate of the disbursements coming out, if they look very, very promising, we would need more money to infuse to kickstart the next phase if there was a ramp up, right? So what I'm worried about right now, I'm going to keep on talking, but what I'm worried about right now is that now it's a little bit onerous. I'm wondering if we should do the $5 million ask now and reserve the $2 million, or just go through another process if, let's just say in August or September, we're ready for the other 2. Well, we don't know. It's all what the unknown is, we don't know what the rate of the disbursements are. The intent was to leverage it as much as possible to kickstart this. The problem is the more we do borrow, that payback will, if it's dragged out too long, will obviously incur interest. But the debt service payments, Elizabeth, we don't even know what they are yet, right? As far as how, and that really depends on the rate. We might want to pay this off early if the rate of the disbursements is really, really high. We want to get, really, frankly, the supportive services rollout, the LIP, fully rolled out as soon as possible. The longer we have debt, the slower that will be. So it's a balancing point, and it was anticipated, as you all recall, which we approved, that we would come back in every quarter and revisit this whole thing. So that was anticipated. So in essence, as far as approvals, just look at a quarterly revisit and approval for us going forward.
That's fine.
But my question to you all, finance people, is it once we get this hammered out, will it be easy for us and Metro to get the other $2 million when we need it? Or should we do it all at once now, but not use it and stay with the plan? That's my question.
Okay, I'm confused, because before us today is $3 million. Now, the additional of $2 million, and all of a sudden we're at $5 million. I'm not sure, Commissioner Savas, if this is the place for this particular action item that is before us. Today, this action item is, are we going to approve the $3 million loan? I don't want to get so far out in the weeds and bring it, but we can have a conversation about you saying, I'm please, commissioners, can we concentrate right on this?
Well, the reason this is relevant, Chair, if you would just give me a little bit of latitude here, the reason this is relevant is I don't want to make this such an onerous process on both us and Metro that it'll make it harder for that second ask. So I'm just asking, what is the best, should we just go forward with the $3 million? All I'm saying is I'm not asking for, just want to make sure the easiest path so that if we do and when initiate the $2 million more.
I don't think we've had those conversations with Metro yet on whether there's $2 million in reserve. I do know that they offered up to $5 million, and I also recall the direction from this board was to negotiate for the $3 million because that was more aligned with yours and Commissioner Schrader's direction for this conservative.
Yeah, but we made it perfectly clear there was $3 million now, but we weren't going to cap it at 3.
If you want us to revisit 5, we can pick up the phone today and speak with their attorney and see. It would implicate additional interest rates over the course of the advancement as well. We could see if there's an extra $2 million out there in reserves that would be available in the event that we need that. We could certainly probably get an answer for you by the end of the day today on that.
Yeah, I want both parties. I appreciate Metro's ability wanting to do this and willingness to do this. I want to make sure that the mechanisms are in place to foresee that. I don't want to close the door. We verbalized that, Commissioner Schrader and I.
We can report back
You
later
may
today.
have verbalized that, but before us today is an agreement that we came to at a previous policy session to do $3 million. Commissioner Fisher, do you have a comment?
Yes, I am concerned always about transaction costs and staff time and effort and work. And I do recall Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader, which is one of the reasons why I supported and made the motion to approve the report, was that, $3 million to start, but we know that this is a program that is going to be wrapped up and the $2 million would be very, very likely. I am, like anyone else, concerned always about interest costs. I am interested in knowing, can we pick up the phone, call Metro and say, and go with this $3 million now, but to talk about streamlining and making it as easy as possible for when we need that other $2 million, probably 6 months from now, that we don't have to go through a whole other onerous process of intergovernmental agreements, negotiations, and a whole other process, using board commission time to have the other approval, and just to streamline it, as Commissioner Savas has suggested.
Andrew?
Yes, and with the caveat, I don't know what Metro agreed to, but assuming they agreed to $5 million, the documentation is done. It should be pretty easy to do an amendment or even just do another one using the same template. So I think the labor is done in terms of documenting how this loan would work. So I don't think there'll be too much additional staff time for that.
My question to that, does Metro have an additional $2 million to give us?
Yeah, make sure our partners know. Make sure our partners
To
are ready.
advance us.
Yeah, so they know. As long as Metro knows that there might be a second ask for up to $2 million.
Commissioners, Paul, if you wanted $5 million, then why did you wait till now?
Chair, I think you go back and listen to the recording, you'll hear what we said.
But we approved $3 million coming forward today.
For this quarter, for the first 3 months.
Yeah. Oh. So, Chair Smith, what I would suggest, and Rod is here, he could speak to this, but our staff needs some form of certainty in knowing what they are able to offer out to the community and how they're running this program. And to know if we're doing $3 million now and potentially $2 million in 6 months, paperwork's done, I think we should plan for that. If by chance a miracle happens, which is not anticipated, but it could possibly happen, that by December we had the resources and we didn't need it, we could always cancel it. But at least staff could plan.
But if we borrow $5 million now, or advanced $5 million now, we are on the hook for the interest rate, regardless of when we give it back. Is that correct? Or am I not thinking?
If we accept the $5 million now, the interest would accrue on the principal of the $5 million. So we could ask Metro today if they could do some sort of informal commitment that they would advance another $2 million should we ask for it. I don't know how enforceable that would be, but
So
that might give
6
some
months from
certainty.
now, do we anticipate tax revenues coming in? Can anybody in this room answer that question?
There will be disbursements, yes.
Yeah, there will be.
Do we know how much?
That's
So-
a $64,000 question.
Well, the latest that was in the Oregonian over the weekend is there was going to be $250 million a year. It is now projected with the best forecasts from the experts, it's $180 million, which Clackamas County is expected to receive 21% of of $180 million.
But it
So
mu-
the piece that we have to be careful of is we can't be at the end of April when all of these tax revenues are supposed to come in and have a very, very constricted program. We have got to sort of ride it in the middle to be very conservative, but at the same time, give our staff the ability to build the bones and the infrastructure of this program.
That's what was essentially verbalized as a mechanism that would get us there.
Yes.
Based on the rate of the disbursements coming in. That's why we revisited in September, October, what we verbalized. Look at that as a time for that advance. If the disbursements are high enough, yes. If they're not, then no. We stay at the $10 million trend. But again, I'm expecting the disbursements to increase gradually.
That'd be nice.
And that's where we're at. So just want to have that flexibility and want to make it easy on our partners and want to make it easy on staff. So I think Commissioner Fisher and I, at least, I think, agree some kind of streamlining and notification so we have that ability. I don't want to get locked into,
I don't know what you're saying.
that was just $3 million for 1 year and then second year it's going to be, we didn't make anything firm in that way.
So, if I may, it sounds like there's maybe three options. There's the proceed with $3 million. Option 2 is proceed $3 million and get a verbal or written commitment that they'll give us the $2 million. Or option 3, we can revise the agreement to say we will receive $3 million now and put in the agreement, if Metro agrees, that they would give us another $2 million in the future. So
Yeah.
it's
That we
either
don't have to
document it
take.
now or
Yeah.
just rely on sort of the informal, we will do the same thing if you ask. So I think that's the choice. Or receive $5 million all at once.
So that at least staff could plan for that. That would be really good. Gary, is that a fair thing to say?
Well,
I mean, Gary just nodded
My
his head at
opinion-
me, so.
No, hang on a minute. We're getting into areas, the direction from what I'm hearing is about as clear as mud. We're giving staff direction for money we don't have yet, hence that's been the whole problem with this Metro measure of the tax money not coming in. We agreed to $3 million coming forward. That's what I was prepared to do today. Now, all of a sudden, we're at $5 million, which I would have appreciated, seriously, a heads up. If we wanted $5 million, then why didn't we do $5 million before we agreed to do $3 million? Gary, do you have a comment for us on this?
Staff is doing our very best to implement your direction, and your direction from the last policy session was $3 million. That was the motion. I listened to it just this week. So you have every right to change that. You're the board. We're talking about it right now. But I just want to be clear what you're asking for, because I'm also here, let me be upfront, I hear feedback. Staff is not following the direction of the board on this matter. So I want to be really clear what you're asking for. That's all I ask.
So Gary, you're absolutely right. The motion was for the $3 million advance now. But the discussion, and not the motion, but the discussion is that the $2 million would be in reserve for the future ask.
Yep.
So while technically correct, it's all good. So I just want to make sure that going forward, that they're envisioning that next ask. We're not asking for it now.
Right.
So Chair Smith, you're correct. We're here today for the $3 million.
So I suggest either we pass this motion or we don't. If we don't pass it, and if you two want $5 million, then we're going to go back and we're going to redo everything, and the disbursements will be delayed. So, yes.
I just wanted to add that the team is working on the budget, and a lot of these programs are slowly ramped up. So, we talked about doing quarterly check-ins, but I think that we're fine with the $3 million initially as planned, as approved. As we get these programs ramped up and staffed, the dollars will begin then to come in through the tax collections. I have a copy of our budget here just verifying that the first 6 months, we were looking at approximately $3 million in infusion of cash, which we needed. And I also understand that the option one, I was absent last month for the approval, but plus $1 million from general fund, should that also be needed.
So we have an additional $1 million in general funds set aside for this as well.
Yes, based on the
Has that been
approval from
spent
last
yet?
month.
That's
No,
not-
no
okay.
dollars have been contributed to.
Also, I want to know what the additional interest cost is for the $2 million, additional $2 million from a Metro advance.
We'll reach out to Metro
You
and ask.
calculate that and bring it forward. And we're assuming the interest rate is the same. So we're already at $64,700 on the cost of this money for the 2 years that we would have it, or the however long that we'd have it. So it's going to be an additional, probably, a third of that. It's going to be an additional $20,000 interest, just quick math, $25,000 interest for the additional $2 million.
And also on the interest, our agreement with Metro, it's on the LGIP rate, the local government investment pool rate. Currently, it's 0.6, so that does change.
And that's a variable rate?
Correct.
Is
It
this
could
rate
change.
fixed on our advanced?
No, it's, I believe it's,
It's the then current, so,
What?
oh, it is fixed though? I thought it was.
well, no, it'll fluctuate, I'm sorry.
It'll fluctuate,
So
yes.
this is a variable interest rate loan?
Correct. Based on the LGIP rate.
And what are the factors that changes the interest rate? Do you know?
The economy.
Oh, boy, this is just getting sweeter all the time. I don't like any of this, for the record. I don't like this one bit. I don't like the advance from Metro. I don't like the interest rate. I'm going along with this because Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Schrader tried to patch together this failed attempt from a tax that we aren't receiving monies on, yet somehow we're supposed to provide services. I don't like this whatsoever, but I will entertain a motion. Commissioners, what do you want to do today?
So what is time of the essence? Do we have time to spend another phone call or two or a few days and come back next Tuesday?
Well, Paul, it's not going to be a few days. It will be when we can schedule another policy session, because we're going to do this quite methodically. We're not throwing stuff at the wall. It's going to be fully vetted, and everybody will get an opportunity. Go ahead.
We were looking to have this on Thursday's consent agenda for you to approve it formally. We can, if you want to table it now, we can go speak with Metro Attorney and see if there's an opportunity for a $2 million commitment to give you some peace of mind moving forward, to let them know that that's what we're contemplating. Is it within the next year we're looking for the other $2 million, you think?
Yeah, it wouldn't be any longer, it wouldn't be any longer than a year out.
And you don't want it in this agreement? You don't want this to say 5?
It doesn't, no, and I don't have, I'm not bent on that.
Could we do up to
We just
5?
want to make sure that we have the doors open for that other 2. I just don't want to close the
Yeah.
door. That's all, that's basically.
What about up to 5? We take 3 now and maybe 2 later. Like you have a equity line of credit, you have $50,000, you can use up to $50,000.
Gary?
I have a suggestion. So why don't we stop right now, talk to Metro immediately. We'll come back this afternoon with you commissioners to see what you'd like to do, whether we're going forward this week or we need more time to come back to later. Would that be acceptable?
Yes,
Okay.
this afternoon would be great.
Okay. Is that
Will
okay?
do.
Is that okay, Jessica?
Whatever.
Okay.
What's up next? Gary?
All right, I'm going to suggest, may we go to the consent agenda next, because we have staff in the room, and it'll probably take 30 minutes to go through this
I'm
list.
just going to,
Okay,
you don't have to stop for me.
all right.
Okay.
Is that all right, Chair
You
Smith?
got 3.
Yes, please go to the
Okay,
consent agenda.
Sheriff's Office, whoever the representative is, please come forward. First, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County on behalf of the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office and the United States, acting by and through the Department of Homeland Security, Seattle Field Office, for the use of the Public Safety Training Center complex. This is an estimated annual revenue to the county of $50,000 billed to the Department of Homeland Security. No county general funds are involved. Hello, please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Gary. Ryan Brown, manager of the Public Safety Training Center. Good morning, commissioners. Department of Homeland Security, Seattle Field Office, which I'll refer to as DHS, has been utilizing the Public Safety Training Center room assets, specifically our shooting range and classrooms, for the better part of a year now, in what I would describe as a prolonged trial basis. DHS is one of 10 federal law enforcement agencies who currently rent PSTC rooms for training purposes. of which all others pay us for their use of our facility. In formalizing this agreement, PSTC can now begin collecting revenues from DHS, and they too can begin paying us for their use of our facility. These revenues are significant to PSTC's cost recovery model, and this agreement, we believe, embodies our charter of promoting safe communities and policing outcomes through training excellence in the region. Questions about this?
Any comments on this proposal? Okay, seeing none, you're approved.
All right, well, we'll put it on a consent agenda.
Very good.
For the board next, approval to apply for grant funding through the United States. Ryan, who's talking about the next one?
I believe, one more time?
Who's talking about the next item?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
And what is the next
Someone
item?
needs to be in the room. This is for, let's see, body-worn camera grants from the U.S. Department of Justice. Do you know who?
I don't have any.
All right, can you check, please? I'll skip on this for now.
right,
Next,
very good.
District Attorney's Office. Come on down. Approval to apply for a 2021-2023 Victims of Crime Act and Criminal Fine Account non-competitive grant for prosecutor-based victim program grant. There are two grants through one application. Victims of Crime Act in the amount of $1,023,466 and Criminal Fine Account grant in the amount of $369,136. Funded through the Oregon Department of Justice Crime Victim Services Division. No county general funds are involved. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Carrie Walker. I'm the Director of the Victim Services Program within the District Attorney's Office. And these grant funds are funding that we apply for every 2 years. It's a non-competitive grant through the Department of Justice. It funds the majority of our staff positions in the office that provide direct services to victims of crime in Clackamas County. And so we are coming up on a new grant period, and I'd like permission to apply.
Any comments? Any objections? Seeing none, go forth.
Great, thank you. Next, Community Corrections. All right, jump ahead. Health, Housing, Human Services. Rod, come on down. First, approval of a contract with Alpha Energy Savers for the weatherization major measure contractors. Total contract value, $1,050,000, funded through the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead.
Yes, Rod Cook, Health, Housing, Human Services. And not to confuse, but there will be 7 of these that are exactly the same. We put out a master procurement, and we look for different vendors who are going to respond to the RFP. So I'll read them separately, but they're all pretty much the same, where they're basically, they do things like ceilings, flooring, ductwork, electrical work. So we basically get them all on the list, and then we have them available when we need them. So for the first one at $1 million, that was for Alpha Energy Services. This contractor will be included in a ranked list of contractors established through a formal procurement process to provide major measure weatherization services for eligible low-income individual families and residing in Clackamas County. It's the first of 7.
Any objections? Seeing none, go ahead.
All right, Rod, just keep going.
Okay, second one will be a contract with Electech Lighting and Electric. Same thing, contractor will be included in a master list, electrical specialty services.
$900,000.
At $900,000, yes.
Any objections? Seeing none, go ahead.
The third one is 1.9 million, and this is for energy, comfort, and construction. They'll be put on the master list through the procurement process to install weatherization major measures and related electrical, HVAC, and plumbing specialty services for eligible low-income individuals and families residing in Clackamas County.
Any objections to this? Seeing none,
Next vendor for $900,000 would be Four Seasons Heating and Air Conditioning. Same piece, but they would be available to install HVAC specialty services.
any objections? Hearing none, continue.
Number 5 is Good Energy Retrofit. They'd be put on the ranking list to install weatherization major measures.
Any objections? Seeing none, go ahead.
Number 6 is Green Energy Solutions. They'd be put on the master list to install weatherization major measures. And again, major measures are ceilings, flooring, ductwork.
Any objections? Seeing none, go ahead.
And number 7 is The Rickard Family Incorporated, the contract will be included in the ranked list to install weatherization major measures, and that's in about a little bit over $1 million for that one.
Any objections? Seeing none, go ahead.
Is that the end of the weatherization
Yes,
ones? Okay,
yes.
number 8 on the list, approval of an amendment to a subrecipient agreement with LifeWorks Northwest for intensive case management services. The amendment adds $44,301.60 for a maximum contract value of $310,111.20 through the State of Oregon Community Mental Health Program. No county general funds are involved.
Listen, as the administrator mentioned, intensive case management services are provided with evidence-based, culturally and linguistically appropriate clinical services and strategies to support mental health recovery with this grant.
Any comments or objections?
I just have a question. Is this also for substance use disorder or only for mental health?
This one is, let me read,
I'm trying to pull up the
Yeah.
thing. And then
it only reads support mental health recovery. And I think next we're going to get to one that gets to other parts of the system, the A&D parts.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Number 9, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention services and problem gambling programs. Amendment does not change the funds available under the agreement. It does change the source of the funds. Funds are provided by the State of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and this is a revenue contract. Amendment changes the source of funds being provided by Oregon Health Authority for community behavioral and substance use disorder services. This is the alcohol and drug services. These services are delivered to youth and adults with substance use disorders or co-occurring substance use and mental health disorders.
I don't see an amount on here.
The amount.
But it's just a change of contract, but it still
Yes,
should have an
it's the
amount.
source of the funding. So, not to complicate things, but this is where if you get federal funding, you have to treat it one way with your accountability and the state another.
Do you have the amount of the original contract?
I do not, but I can.
That's all right.
Get that.
Give
Okay.
it to me later. Any other comments on this? Seeing none, go
Okay,
ahead.
10, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon acting by and through the Oregon Health Authority for operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention services and problem gambling programs. Amendment adds $53,067.66 for a maximum agreement of $9,139,626.84, funded through the State of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, and this is also a revenue contract. The amendment adds funds for aid and assist client services and changes the source of state funds provided for system management and coordination services, aid and assist clients, crisis and acute transition services from marijuana tax funds to mental health general funds.
Any comments? Seeing none.
11, approval of an intergovernmental agreement, Amendment 4, with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities Division for provision of services to Clackamas County residents. Amendment adds $224,000 for a new total of $8,391,334. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this is a revenue contract. This amendment reflects adjustments on the OPI funds with additional program funding to provide services. The state was delayed in issuing the amendment due to state staffing capacity. So the dates on this one, it ended June 30, 2021, but that's basically them creating an opportunity for them to pay us for services already rendered.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, go ahead.
12, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation, Rail and Public Safety Transit Division for House Bill 2017 State Transportation Improvement Fund discretionary program funds for the I-205 Borland Road Bridgeport Village Pilot Transit Service. Maximum amount is $900,000 funded through House Bill 2017. 20% of matching funds will be covered through the Clackamas County STIF funds and Washington County committed matching funds. No county general funds are involved.
Yes, this is also a revenue contract. This transit connection would simplify the riding experience for people traveling between Washington and Clackamas counties by allowing them to travel from Bridgeport Village to Oregon City, West Lynn, and Clackamas Town Center, and additionally connect to services off Borland Road TriMet does not currently provide transit service along the I-205 corridor.
Any comments on this?
Yeah, just one. That is that this is the product of a lot of work, and a lot of effort, and the STIF funds are something, a product of HB 2017. We're hoping this is a beginning towards more transit along the I-205 corridor. There's, I forgot how many miles, 14 miles of that corridor has no transit service anywhere near it. Thank you.
And that's just another comment. I always find it fascinating that this is in H3S, and I know the history of the shuttle that went up to the mountain and how that all happened. But Gary, are we at any point going to be looking at where this makes sense, or?
Yes.
We are?
Yes.
Oh.
That's for
Okay.
further discussion. Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Rod.
Okay. And I have one request, sorry, Gary, but on the weatherization, the 7 weatherization, we're really hoping that we can get that on next Thursday's agenda, because those are rehab. We'd like to get those vendors out in the streets and getting those homes repaired, if it's possible.
This Thursday or next Thursday?
This Thursday.
That's fine with me.
July 22nd? Yes. All right.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rod. We'll go back to community corrections. First, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Community Corrections and the City of Wilsonville to provide work crew services. The agreement will provide approximately $62,800 in revenue funded through the City of Wilsonville. No county general funds are involved. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Malcolm McDonald, Director of Clackamas County Community Corrections. Actually, we can tie all 3 of the items together. They're all contracts that we've been before the board and talked about the community service program. This is a revenue generating that we provide services, either cities or Metro or other agencies in the county, and provide a service. But with that, it provides an opportunity for clients that either have been sanctioned to or ordered to complete community service to do something productive in the community, an opportunity to give back, and it's an alternative sentence to incarceration.
All right, so there's 3 different agreements. One is City of Wilsonville for $62,800. The second is with Metro for $12,200. The third is for Clackamas River Water for $8,000. But they're all the same purpose.
They're all the same. Any comments from commissioners on these 3 agreements?
Yeah, one, just curious, is the sheriff's office goal of these activities cost recovery, or do you realize it is a subsidy of sorts?
It is really to offset the cost of fuel, maintenance of equipment. It's not a cost recovery, no.
Okay, because, that money adds up to basically a portion of one FTE.
Yeah, we bring in prior to COVID, about $251,000 a year. We perform about 34,000 hours in the community, again, prior to COVID. So we do a lot of work in the community. It also offsets our community's costs for our city, or even within departments in the county, for us to send a crew of 12 people out for $450 and work in some areas that other businesses may not want to do. You send out 12 people with weed eaters to take out a field that would be really hard to do otherwise. So there's a benefit across the board. So really the recovery to reduce the number of individuals that are taking up our most expensive resource of jail, and also giving back to the community and providing a type of work. They're not just picking up a litter, they're actually doing a skill, and often can learn some skills on just basic landscaping overall. And we do some nonprofit work for some of the cemeteries also.
Yeah. I appreciate all the efforts. Don't want to confuse. My only concern is just the financial aspects of it. So I appreciate the work and, and the effort and what it does and everything you just stated. So
thank you.
Okay, up next.
Sorry, I have a question. So I see that Metro is receiving this. I thought they switched up what they were doing with crews and they were not going to be utilizing.
We're looking at metro properties within Clackamas County that we have contracted services for this. I'm not aware that they've changed anything. They just renewed the contract, so we do not go outside of the county.
Yeah,
They may not be doing crews that come out of a jail. That may be what you heard in the Portland area.
Okay.
Our crews these are not jail crews. These are community corrections crews. These are individuals that were either placed on formal probation or as a sentence to their bench probation were ordered community service. So this population is not just people that are placed on, with community corrections. We offer a service essentially to the courts here in Clackamas County so that our district attorney's office and the courts have an alternative sentencing option.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. Thank you. My brain was just confused, and you've given me the distinction that I needed, so I'm good with this.
Very good.
Any other comments on these items? Up next, Gary.
Okay, great. Thank you, Malcolm. Next, Water Environment Services. Approval of a contract between Water Environment Services and Kennedy Jenks Consultants for the boring pump station and force main engineering services. Total contract value is $1,907,043 until July 1st, 2022. Funded through Direct Capital Projects Fund. No county general funds are involved. Please introduce yourselves and go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Greg Geis. I'm Director of Water Environment Services. I have with me Stephen Rice, who's the project engineer. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. This is a project to replace our boring facility, which is the most rudimentary of our treatment plants. We did a study. Well, we were having trouble meeting our water quality standards during the summer for temperature and during the winter for ammonia, to the point where we're having to truck material out of those lagoons to our Kellogg facility. So we did a study, and the least cost long-term option is to just simply decommission that facility, replace it with a pump station, and pump that material to our current collection system. So that's what we're proposing to do, roughly along the route of 212. This is the engineering services related to that project.
The money is coming from the direct capital funds.
Correct.
What is that?
Well, we have reserves and we have construction funds.
But where do you get that money?
The money comes ultimately from rates or from borrowing, yes.
Because you sold bonds earlier in the year, and what
Right.
was that for?
That goes into those funds.
Okay, so it's a combination.
Combination of rates and
Commissioner
borrowing.
Savas?
Yeah, just, can you remind me of the total cost?
It's about $5 million total.
For the construction and everything?
Right.
Laid on the line?
And so this is close to $2 million, which is kind of relatively a lot for design services, but these types of projects are just the nature of them with the geology and the linear component topography, property acquisition. It's just, there's a lot of upfront work. But once we get this part of it done, it's trenching and putting in pipe.
So how about the rock clause? Is there a rock clause in there? If they hit rock?
I don't know. I'd have to look. I mean, there's a geotechnical analysis.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're protected.
Okay.
Or what that looks like.
Any other comments? Seeing none?
I just have to say I had to giggle when you said it was a boring pump. Because I'm thinking, how can that be boring? It's so interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District item for Milwaukee Bay Park. We are pulling that item because we are working with the City of Milwaukee on our intergovernmental agreement. So until we complete that work, we're going to hold this item. I do see this item is also listed on already listed on your consent agenda for this Thursday. We will remove that. That was an error. So just to correct the record, we'll take care of that as well. Next, Transportation and Development. Approval of an amendment to a contract with Harper, Hoff, Peterson, Regelis for the Linwood Avenue Improvement Project. Amendment adds $205,948.88 for a total contract not to exceed $1,332,343.90. Funded through the North Clackamas Revitalization Area Urban Renewal Project. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you so much. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation Development. Harper, Hoff, Peterson, Regalis Incorporated is under contract to develop design and construction documents for this Linwood Avenue project. After completing extensive surveying, studies, and 60% construction plans, it was determined the amount of work required for right-of-way appraisals and negotiations and acquisitions for necessary easements and right-of-way for construction was much greater than initially estimated. County right-of-way staff might normally perform this work, but due to an extensive list of current county projects, I think we're at 43 right now that we have that we're working on currently, require the attention of county right-of-way staff. And it's necessary to rely on HHPR as right-of-way consultant in order to maintain progress on this Linwood Avenue project. So basically, this amendment is in accordance with LCBR rules, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Savas?
Yeah, so is this a bike ped project? What is a Linwood project?
Essentially, it is it's one of the projects identified in our North Clackamas revitalization area. It includes road restoration work for the entire road itself, and it also has pedestrian components with it as well.
Okay. I do know there's a huge safety issue, and bike ped is really important, especially with the school nearby and all the other neighborhood roads. So I want to make sure that that was a component of this.
And that's a great question. And I think one of the things we're seeing right now, this isn't greenfield development. where you have open fields and you're developing. It is developments within developed neighborhoods.
That's right.
And there's a little bit more complexity. We want to make sure we do it right. So,
Any further comments on this? Seeing none, thank you.
thank you.
Next, Technology Services, approval of a service level agreement between the Clackamas Broadband Exchange and Western Independent Networks for a dark fiber connection. Total contract value is $30,780, which is $855 a month for 36 months, funded through the Clackamas Broadband Exchange. No county general funds are involved.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Dave Dorr, Interim Director for Technology Services. Looking for approval of a service level agreement between CBX for the leasing of dark fiber to the Western Independent Networks. Again, like Administrator Schmidt mentioned, it's a 3-year contract, $10,260 a year revenue. And it's pretty straightforward.
Nice. Any comments?
Just a question, geographically, who benefits from this, or where?
Western Independent Networks actually represents several different internet providers, and they basically parcel it out based on which areas need it and who they're delivering services to.
Okay, so
it'd be like Beaver Creek or some of the areas in that area.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of get a geographic sense of who benefits.
They're kind of a consortium that helps out the other internet providers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Next, Juvenile, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Multnomah County and Clackamas County. This amendment reduces the number of beds that Clackamas and Washington counties can utilize free of charge in excess of the 13 beds we currently pay for, from 34 beds down to 31 beds. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Good morning, Christina McMahon, Juvenile Department Director. And this amendment, it was requested by Multnomah County Juvenile Department. It has not changed Clackamas County's capacity. We have a cooperative agreement with the Washington County Juvenile Department so that if we have needs that exceed our capacity and they are not using their full capacity, we can access their beds and vice versa. Washington County made budget cuts and they reduced their detention beds by 3. So the contract needed to be changed from 34 to 31 to reflect the combined access that we have as 2 counties.
Mm-hmm. And does that affect our capacity at all?
No, our capacity is 13 detention beds. We have not changed that. And then Multnomah, if they have space available, allows us to use 2 additional beds free of charge. And then we have the agreement with Washington County that technically under this agreement, we could use 31 beds just for Clackamas County if Washington County used 0. That has never happened, but
let's hope it doesn't.
Let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's quite reciprocal in nature, and I appreciate that. Any further comments from commissioners? Seeing none. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Finally, Business and Community Services, approval of a purchase from Structured Communication Systems for Palo Alto firewall hardware, software, and maintenance. The purchase and 3 years of maintenance cost $262,762.84. This is funded through county general funds. Please introduce yourselves and go ahead.
Where is it?
Yeah, where is it?
I don't see it on my.
Is it not online?
It's not online.
It's on the email I sent, and it appears it was not added online.
I think I
apologize.
read the email.
Where's the email? I'll just find
It's
it.
the email I sent, issues update number 2 or 3. Actually, number 1, 2, or 3, any of those, but it came
Well,
from me.
why don't we just explain it and see
Go
what
ahead.
commissioners want to do?
Sounds good, thanks. I'm Sarah Ekman, Interim Director with Business and Community Services, and I also have with me Catherine Cole, our Link Library Services Manager, in case there's questions. So we do come before you today. Our Library Support Services is requesting board approval to purchase new replacement firewall hardware, software, and maintenance. And this is coming in a somewhat expedited fashion because we've identified a way to experience significant cost savings through a cooperative agreement. It's timely that we replace the Link Library System's end-of-life firewall, hardware, and software. This provides critical protection against unauthorized access to the computers and network of the 13 Clackamas County libraries. We have, as defined by the intergovernmental agreements between the county and each of the library cities, a requirement to provide library support services. My next page is not going. To function as telecommunications and technical support to the member libraries, and this firewall service is a direct part of that function. So we have budgeted for this in the library services budget for this fiscal year. It's currently on sale for the $261,000 price, which is $40,000 cheaper than we budgeted. So it saves $247,000 from the listed price. It's only available through the end of this month, which is why we bring it to you today and request that it be expedited.
I don't have a problem with this. Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I usually read the things when we don't have access to it, so I apologize, I just don't have the information. We have library districts that have a library, it's a separate district, it's got its own funds. Why are we using county general fund?
Would you like to speak to that, Catherine?
Sure. So I am the library network manager, and so we provide services to protect all of the libraries in terms of their technology, and we provide their internet access, their systems, their servers, all of those pieces. And part of our intergovernmental agreement is we provide the protection related to all of those services, which is why we're replacing the current firewall that we have to protect our libraries with a new firewall.
And I think, Commissioner Fisher, to add to your question, I think what I'm hearing you say is, so the library district funds come in and they go directly to the libraries, but we have general fund dollars to fulfill our obligations under our IGA with them.
It's part of the IGAs made way back when the district was formed, that the county, Clackamas County would fund this centralized service paid by county general fund. So it's a long-standing agreement.
Right.
The board in 2009 made.
And just to add, just to give a little bit of understanding, so the idea was that the big, huge contribution for the general fund has been now reduced to this small amount of money. So the IGA was in the best interest of the general fund because we were funding all these libraries in the past, prior to the district being formed. So this saved the district, not the district, this saved the county a whole millions of dollars when the library district was formed.
Any further comments on this? Seeing none, go forth.
So am I hearing you want this week?
Yes, please.
May we add this to this week's agenda?
Yep.
Please? Okay. Great. Thank you. Going back to the sheriff's office, I apologize. The second item listed was actually pulled, and I just didn't get notice. So the body camera grants are on hold, though the sheriff's office will come back when they're ready, but not for this week. All right. Thank you. All right. Commissioners, Chair, I predict there's probably 45 minutes left of issues, and it's 11:45 a.m. So would you like to power through? Do you want to do it this afternoon between policy sessions? What would you like to do?
We could use up to 15 minutes, but I need to go at noon.
Okay.
And do we want to come back at 1 or 1:30?
I need to, I'll be pushing 1:20 by the time I get back.
Okay, hang on a minute. Let me take a look at something.
I think your afternoon session at 1:30 will not take the full hour, so there will be time between
We have a
end of that.
1:30, we have a 2:30, we have a 3 o'clock, we have a 3:30.
Yeah, they won't go long.
Policy section, okay.
So we could do it between the 1:30 and 2:30 policy sessions.
Okay, and there's still commissioner comments.
Yes.
I suggest we be brief in our comments. So
Would you
let's,
like-
Gary, can we go for another 15 minutes and see what we can get done?
Absolutely. All right, well, let's do the easy ones first. Advisory boards and commission appointments. Christina?
So there's one ADC for today. It is the Veterans Advisory Council, staffed by Social Services Division. They currently have 6 openings due to term expirations and resignations. They are allowed 2-year terms. 3 applications were received and 3 were recommended to be appointed. The 3 are as follows: Cassandra Curry for their 2nd term, Benjamin Hare for their 1st term, and Ian Newland for their 1st term. And that's it.
Any comments on this from commissioners?
Move for approval?
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval for the Veterans Advisory Council. Commissioner Fisher has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Christina, please call the poll.
Commissioner Scholl?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. What's up next,
Thank
Gary?
you. Your business meeting for this Thursday, July 22nd, 10 a.m. It's entirely consent agenda, but it is a long consent agenda, but that's all you have. If you have any questions on any item, please let me know before Thursday. Next, I'd like to add a quick topic. I am observing there's a lot of misunderstanding or miscommunication out in the community about the Park Avenue project. and the miscommunication is that the commissioners have killed it and it's not moving forward. And that is not true, as you know. You have simply put the project on hiatus until the community comes forward and demonstrates there's a level of consensus on what to do moving forward to advise you before you take the next steps. So I wanted to ask, would you like staff to perhaps do some communication to the community, maybe an op-ed, maybe various tactics to just let the various members of our community know that indeed is what the board decided? Seeking your input.
So I've been asked by the Chamber of Commerce at their Government Affairs meeting on August, first Monday in August, can't remember exactly what it is, to speak about this. And so I just want to make sure we reflect the board's wishes, and I think the message I got was, Gary, you pretty well stated it. I think there was, someone did call out, well, consensus means unanimous consent, essentially, and I don't think that's what we are we'd like to strive for that, but I don't think that's what we're going to achieve. But certainly more acceptance of that. So basically, to really have MAPIT ideally be the person to, or the group to work out those differences and come to us with a better accepted project. And so I would prefer we send a letter encouraging the CPOs, MABA, to reform as MAPIT or get back together as MAPIT to work out those differences and bring us a greater level of acceptance, community acceptance on this project. One word that was used was, in a community meeting, was that the MAPIT should not be an arbitrator. And I looked up the word arbitrate. I think Commissioner Fisher, in her experience, knows what that means. Mediate and arbitrate are two different things. I don't think it's our goal to have the Planning Commission be the arbitrator of this. So, and I don't think, hopefully, that the word arbitrate, or it's risen to the level of needing arbitration. I think it's really about the community getting together. If it's gone that far south, I'm not aware of it. So hopefully there's more cooperation, more positive, say that again, more positive energy around this to get those folks back together. So ideally a letter, Gary.
Okay.
I don't have trouble with the letter. However, I do not want to raise expectations of any members in the community that this is an approval of any one philosophy over another. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the community, and a very clear agreement from all community members needs to be had in order for this commission to again consider any of the Park Avenue project. I want to be very clear on that because this whole process is very difficult in that there are so many different point of views on what people should be done, what people think should be done. And I saw a division. I saw very little agreement on really much of anything out there. So if there's going to be a letter sent, is it going to be from the board for board approval, or what do you recommend?
I would suggest, when I hear Commissioner Savas suggest a letter from the Board of Commissioners that you'd send to the CPOs, the MAPIT members, former MAPIT members within the community.
Okay, and we can wordsmith that further, Paul.
Yeah, and I just want to close with this. I mean, I'll speak for myself because I'm not in a position to speak for each of you, but I will speak for myself. And I stated it that day, June, whatever it was, 12th or whatnot, 20th, that my goal is they come back together. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. We spent a lot of money, a lot of time. We just need to get it across the finish line. So I do not in any way feel that the message coming out of our meeting that day was that this was dead or permanently dead. So I want to make sure we address that. This is not dead. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I think I was a no vote that day because I wanted it to move forward based on what staff had recommended, a nice middle point on how to bridge those concerns to send the effort on to the Planning Commission. The interest from the business community and our interest as a board is to not lose family wage sustainable jobs in the community. And to put that requirement into the process is something that we could do as a commission and we could send it on. I think it's good. The community should come together. I did have commitment from the people from MAPIT that they were interested in coming back to the table, which was part of the reason why I had voted to move it on with that qualification. But whatever we say, I think identifying that consensus point, that when the community does get together and make a recommendation to us, that they take into consideration those interests that we have identified.
And hopefully the folks, our staff is listening to what you're saying to get those thoughts in there.
Oh, but Gary's listening.
I got it.
He's got it.
I got it.
And-
All right, we'll draft a
and-
letter and bring it back to you at issues.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
well-
the issue at hand is there's two of the three parties that make up MAPIT that have agreed, but we're waiting for one more. There's
that's
one more that
fine.
has not agreed to come to the table yet.
Okay, all right, let's, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this because I do not want to send any messages again on this. Gary, what's up next?
All right, I propose we stop now because nothing will be 5 minutes or less. So what we'll come back to this afternoon is further discussion on the Metro Advance, the Stafford area statement you received from the cities, Commissioner Fisher's supportive housing services update, and then Commissioner Communications. We'll do that between the 1:30 policy session and the 2:30 policy session. And if we still don't finish, we'll do it after the end of the last policy session today.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And we will come back at 1:30.